So, it's been a hot minute, hasn't it? I think we can all agree that it's been quite a while since I've sat here and recorded a Minecraft video. Alright, yeah, it has been a little bit. I thought before I get into the content for this video, I'd talk a little bit about why that has been the case, because as most of you probably know, and I put it in my bios everywhere so that people know, I'm autistic. And I'm finally going through the process of getting help for that. And it's been, well, encouraging, obviously, because it's been a long time when I haven't had that opportunity. But it's also very, very stressful and tiring. And, it zaps me of all of my motivation, which is kind of the big reason why I haven't been very active lately. I, have been doing a little bit of streaming, but on the video side of things, I haven't had the inspiration to actually sit in front of my microphone. But regardless, I really hope that now I do have some inspiration, that I'll be able to make some pretty interesting videos, and I have a few ideas on the way that I think you're all going to like. So the majority of you probably remember that I pretty recently put out a video on a Warden Farm design, but the thing is that a lot of changes have been made since that video was released. Most notably, well, I haven't got COVID anymore, but also these guys, the Sculk Shriekers, they now have a special block state called can_summon. Now, can_summon returns false when the Sculk Shrieker is placed by either a Sculk Catalyst, one of these guys, or is placed by the player. Now, it only returns true when it generates naturally as part of an ancient city, and you might be able to tell by the fact that it is called can_summon that it refers to its capability of spawning the warden, which means you have to build all of your warden farms in situ around a naturally generated Sculk Shrieker, which brings a whole load of new challenges. Most notably, obviously, there's a lot of kind of dangerous things around that you have to try and avoid, but also the nature of it being in the deep dark. The name Deep Dark would suggest that it is very deep in the world, and that is true. You can see if I just stand on the ground here, I am at -51 on the Y level, which means we have very little downward space we can actually play with. Previously, in my old design, what I did was I had a Sculk Shrieker right up at the surface, with a big platform to spawn the warden, which would get lured over to a drop chute. It would drop down and get blended up by a Trident killer. But we can't use drop chutes anymore because we only have sort of 12 or 13 layers below to work with. That narrows us down to one of two possibilities for warden farming. Number one is spawning the warden inside bubble columns, and I will link an excellent video by Groover Guy, who made a farm using this mechanic. That will be in the description below, so go ahead and watch that after this video if you're interested. The thing is that at the time of this video releasing, I will be in 1.19, but as you can see, I am currently playing in 1.19.10.21. So we are starting to see development for 1.19.10, one of the changes of which is wardens can no longer spawn underwater. Unfortunately, we are limited to using portals, so help us ratio, unfortunately. So now down to the actual farm itself. I'll do a bit of explaining of this before we get into the tutorial. As you can see on the Overworld side, literally the only thing that we have is an array of 6 portals. And that is it. We've got buttons on the top to stop the wardens from spawning on top of the portals. Each of these portals are connected with platforms that the warden can spawn on. We've got a Sculk Sensor up at the top, and when you stand on this Sculk Sensor, it will repeatedly activate the Sculk Shrieker down here. Now, the magic all happens over in the Nether Side, so I'll just head over there now to show you what's going on. All we've got is a minimum size portal and a Trident killer just below. I don't really need to show you how Trident killers work, and the majority of you would have probably seen it by now. Something which might have caught your eye, and you might be a bit curious about, is this massive redstone line here. You might be like, why is this so long? Well, one of the changes that has been implemented to wardens since I made my initial farm is they now have an incredibly brutal range attack. So this range attack is called the Sonic Boom, and it bypasses armor, protection, it also bypasses shields, and it also goes through walls. So the Sonic Boom targets entities within 15 blocks of the warden that it senses, which means, well, if we've got a bunch of wardens in here, and you're just AFKing sort of down here, collecting all the XP or whatever, then you will also be blended up alongside the Wardens, unfortunately, albeit through a slightly different method. So I've made this big redstone line just so the player can stand far enough away from the Trident killer so that you're still simulating it, but the Wardens can't detect you and won't shoot the, incredibly strong sonic boom charge. So in a minute I'm just going to log my alt account onto this world, but first I will show you how to trigger this farm. So since it's two-dimensional and it uses portals, you do have to have one player in the overworld and one player in the nether, or one player in the overworld and a ticking area in the nether. It's entirely up to you which you do, and obviously you have to negotiate if you want a multiplayer server a little bit. On the overworld side, all you do is stand right on top of this Sculk Sensor here. That's it. That's the whole thing. This is actually a change. Well, I'm not sure if it's a change really, but it's something pretty interesting that I didn't realise. It's that you don't need to have a constant source of movement to trigger the Sculk Sensor. If you stand on it, it will just be pushed into overdrive and constantly send signals everywhere or whatever. Which is really helpful actually, because it means you can have a stationary AFK spot and you don't need to be moving around, which is, not ideal really. Now on the nether side, obviously, I think, I'm not really sure I need to dedicate much of an explanation to this, so I'll pretty quickly skip over it. You just need to turn on the Trident killer, and you see all those pistons will move around. Again, I don't need to show you a Trident killer. You would all have seen Trident killers by this point if you've spent 5 minutes in the Minecraft Bedrock Edition technical community. But what I'll do now is I will log my alt account onto this world, and you'll be able to see what this farm looks like when it's running. Okay, so I've stood my alt account on top of the Sculk Sensor like I mentioned I would. Now something pretty interesting is that, well, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get this farm working to begin with. And when you stand on the Sculk Sensor, sometimes it does take a few seconds or something to initiate. And the reason for that is that the Sculk Shrieker needs to count to 4. So only when it counts to 4 will it summon its first Warden. And from that point, every following activation will trigger the Warden spawn. So if you build this in your world, don't be alarmed by the fact that sometimes it seems like it's not going to work for a little bit, because it really does. But anyway, you can see that these Wardens are just being blended up in the Trident killer. All of their Sculk Catalysts are ending up in here, and it's actually pretty efficient. So in terms of the rates, I haven't actually run an extensive test. I have merely calculated based on Sculk Shrieker cooldown and so on that this produces a max speed of 360 Sculk Catalysts per hour, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for 360 per hour is way more than you're ever going to need for something as niche as Sculk Catalysts, right? Something you might have noticed is that we haven't spliced this portal. This portal is exactly just standing here, really. And this is something interesting I discovered with Wardens, is that when they go through portals, they conserve being on the northwest corner of the block upon being spawned, rather than shifting to the middle or whatever. Which means that what I think is happening anyway is it's briefly going inside this obsidian block and being insta-pushed out and down into the Trident killer. I'm not entirely sure that's what's going on, but I'm pretty sure it is. It does make this farm slightly directional on the nether side, but really it's so negligible. Now, because of the simple thing that I mentioned earlier on about, the sonic boom charge, you do have to be very careful when you go to turn off the farm. If you've ever heard the phrase, "Don't go back to a lit firework," you'll know exactly what I mean. If there are still Wardens inside this Trident killer being blended up, then what you don't want to do is turn off the Trident killer like this and go straight here, because you will be shot at. So you have to move the player in the overworld first, and then wait until all these Wardens are gone in order to move from your AFK spot. Otherwise, you will not have a great time. Alright, I don't think there's much I need to mention from this point forth. I think we're ready to get into this tutorial. Alright, so you want to get things started by heading off into the deep dark, i.e., well, Most of the time you'll find an ancient city alongside that deep dark, but if you don't, that's fine too. All you need to do is make sure you have a Sculk Shrieker to hand. Now, I actually got pretty lucky here. I've got two pretty next to each other, but the first thing you want to do is actually to, well, remove any nearby Sculk Sensors and Sculk Shriekers from the one you're using. I'm going to pick this one because it's really out in the open. It's going to make my tutorial very, very easy. And I advise that you do the same, but you don't always have this luxury. Just make sure that you remove all nearby Sculk Sensors and Sculk Shriekers. Otherwise, you will be working in very volatile conditions, and also you risk the Warden spawning in a place you don't want to if there are multiple Sculk Shriekers around the location. Okay, so what you want to do first of all is you just want to crouch and place a block right on top of the Sculk Shrieker, and then you want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks out from the middle like that, and then do the same on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like so. Then what you can do is just place obsidian like this, and obsidian going along the other side as well. So you see we've kind of got an interesting pattern going on with obsidian, platform, obsidian, and you want to repeat this such that you end up having 6 obsidian rows and 5 rows of regular solid blocks. So I'm just going to go ahead and increase those. So just like that, you should have an 11 by 11 platform, alternating obsidian, solid block, obsidian, solid block, obsidian, solid block, and so on, like that. Now you may have to remove some of the terrain or some of the ancient city structure in order to create this platform, and that will be, you know, consistent throughout the entirety of me constructing this overworld side. Now what you want to do is, by the sides of all of these obsidian rows, just pillar up 3 like that with obsidian, and you want to do that all the way along on this side, and also repeat it on the other side as well when you're done. Okay, just like that, you can see we have kind of a, I guess, rib cage going on here that kind of, yeah, it kind of looks like a rib cage, doesn't it? The final thing is we want to go ahead and connect all of these obsidian beams with a horizontal line going across the top. Okay, so your farm should end up looking something like this, at least as much as we have at the moment. Now, the most important step right now is to spawn-proof all of these obsidian blocks like this. So just go along the tops with either buttons or slabs or trapdoors or carpets. Just note that in 1.19.10 there are a few blocks which previously blocked warden spawns that no longer do, such as string, for example. So just make sure you're aware of those, maybe do some testing in creative mode first before you go ahead and commit to a certain block. But buttons, I can confirm, work really nicely, and they're quite cheap too. During the showcase of this farm I did actually put buttons on top of these blocks as well, but you don't need to because these are out of range of the warden spawning range anyway. Just while I'm here, I will mention that if you have any blocks that are intersecting this farm, for example, if you're building this you know, intersecting an ancient city, then you might occasionally get blocks kind of being like this. You want to remove all of those, because otherwise the warden could spawn on one of these blocks and then target you AFKing up here, and that, well, we all know how that goes. Final thing is, before I get into the nitty-gritty nether side of this, is we want to go ahead and light all of these portals. We're not going to place a Sculk Sensor in just yet, because otherwise that's going to start, you know, triggering the warden and stuff, and we're not ready for that yet. All you need to do is find the center block of your farm, which should be directly above the Sculk Shrieker you located earlier. So it might be better to just take the coordinates of that before you go ahead and build the rest of the farm, just so it's easier. Take the coordinates of this, and you want to go ahead and divide those by 8. Now if you end up with a decimal, then just round that decimal down to the nearest whole number. So when you head off into the nether, which is what we're going to be doing now, then it's going to, well, place a portal to start with. You don't want this portal, you can get rid of this immediately. Okay, just like that. And I'm going to just do a little bit of terrain work like that, why not? Make it look all nice. Okay, then you want to go to those secondary set of coordinates that you calculated, and you want to go there in the nether. So negative 128 like that, and also 17, which is here. Okay, so I am actually directly above a lava lake, which isn't particularly helpful, but you might not be, and you can see in the showcase that I did, I wasn't there either. So you might just be incredibly unlucky like I am here. So what you can do is just go ahead and start building a portal, but before you do, you want to make sure that you get a pumpkin. Now the reason why we're getting a pumpkin, and it does seem a little bit strange that we're doing that, is because when you place the pumpkin down, you can see its stem always points northwest. Wherever I place the pumpkin, its stem always points in the northwest direction, which is going to be incredibly helpful for us because we need to align our portal to the west and the east direction. So if you align yourself with the pumpkin here, you can see that this is north and this is west, which means we can build our portal like this. Okay, so from the northwest corner of your portal, or if you prefer the north frame of the portal, and you want to come to the west side of that frame, and then you want to come down 1, 2, 3 blocks like that, and these can be any blocks of your choice. I'm just using glass to really sell that point home, and place 2 blocks like this. Then you want to place 1 block to the front and 1 block to the left. You can break that block and place 2 more blocks on top, and then stack that up 1 more time. Then place a block in front and a block to the right. You can break that block and stack up another 2 and then another 3 like that, and then you can just connect it with another 6 blocks like so. And then we can place a temporary block here and begin to make a 2x2 square like this, and from here we can actually go ahead and place the chest which will store all of our Sculk Catalysts. So you can place your double chest like that, and then remove one of the blocks going into the back of the chest and replace it with a hopper, and its nozzle should be pointing in that specific direction. Okay, and then what we can do is remove this block here and place a piston, 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 just to create this funny little pattern here. Then what we can do is make sure that all of the blocks on top of our pistons are solid. So because I've used glass in this particular demonstration, I will have to replace it with a solid block, but you may well have made your walls out of solid blocks to start with, in which case this step doesn't apply to you. Then what we can do is remove this block and place an observer, so that it should be pointing into that block like that. So there is an arrow on top for everyone, even if you don't have a text pack on like I do, and that should be pointing into that block. And you want to make sure that that happens on all of the sides like this. We can remove this pumpkin now, actually we don't need that, like that. And then just to finish things off, we can place trapdoors like this. And as soon as we place our last trapdoor in, you can see our pistons will start making a funny little circle like that. Now we can go ahead and throw our tridents in, so I'm going to go ahead and do 2. It doesn't really matter how many tridents you have in, but just remember, the more you have in there, the laggier it will be, because they'll be colliding with all the wardens. So I recommend 2 or 3. There's no need to exceed that by any means. The final thing is, and actually this is pretty much optional, is you can go ahead and replace this block with a slab. This is only if you want to collect the XP from the warden, and I understand if actually you don't want to and you don't see the need, that's entirely fair too. You'll need to do this anyway if your walls are made of solid blocks, because otherwise you won't be able to open this chest. The only thing we need to do is really make a redstone line that is going to connect our little AFK spot to our trident killer, to make sure that we don't take exorbitant amount of damage from the wardens in there. We're going to need to count actually, so this is 1 like this, and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 like that, and you can then go up up like that and place a block, which is going to be where your lever is. Flick that lever on if that makes you comfortable, and then place redstone on all of those blocks. So the moment that happens, the Trident killer should stop working, and when you flick this lever again, then it should start working. Now, this is really where your own creativity comes in, and I don't have an awful lot of that, so I'll have to leave this down to you. You'll need to create a little AFK spot just here where you can sit there, and I strongly advise having a portal here too, rather than having to travel hundreds of blocks in the Nether to get here. Just create a little portal near to your base or whatever that leads straight here. You may also find it useful to create an extra platform down here. Just make sure, again, never go back to a lit firework. Always make sure you know what you're doing. Don't take any risks, because wardens are brutal. And then the final thing we can do is light that portal. We just want to make sure that we have our Sculk Sensor in place over on the Overworld side. So go to those same coordinates, which would be the direct center of your farm, and place your Sculk Sensor. And that's it, ladies and gents. It really is such an easy mob farm to make. And if you have an ancient city nearby, then you'll be missing tricks. You'll be missing tricks if you don't construct this. Anyway, I don't think there's anything else I can offer to you, other than obviously stay safe. Like I say, don't take any risks. Also, when you're going ahead and removing all of the Sculk sensors and shriekers and bits like that, then it's entirely likely that at some point you will summon the warden only from breaking nearby Sculk sensors. So what I have to say to that is make sure you're really prepared and you've got a good set of armor, and also to evade the sonic boom attack, just make a 2-block tall tunnel like that goes sort of quite far away. The warden will still be able to sniff you out, but every so often you'll be able to go sort of over here, strike a punch, and then run back here again. Or alternatively, you could just let the warden despawn after 6 seconds, which is probably a much safer alternative. But either way, you're going to want a bunker to hang out in while that happens. I really hope you enjoyed this farm. I really hope you enjoyed my my explanation. Like I say, I am hopefully getting back into making videos, but it's going to be a little bit before I feel completely comfortable with it again. It's been a decent amount of time since I've recorded my last video, and I feel a bit rusty, and I guess the nature of why I took a break in the first place means that it's going to be quite difficult for me for a little bit. I hope this was interesting nevertheless. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was a good farm. I keep repeating the same things over and over again. Did I say that I'm a bit rusty? Alright. Goodbye, everyone.